Welcome to the October 2nd, 2018 episode of Reactive Consciousness, our in-depth podcast about what happened this week in our lives. I'm your host, vysethebold, and this is...
Lotus Prince.
And PJF,
Whoa.
or PyroJackFrost.
Peanut butter and jelly with fluff.
Exactly.
I love that.
Actually,
Peanut,
I was
jelly,
thinking
and
about
fluff.
having that for lunch tomorrow.
Well, welcome back. I know that you've been gone for several important reasons, but moving is rough, man. So my hat's off to you, man.
Not just moving, but I bought a place, so we had to touch it up, which I'll talk about a little bit more, I think, in CoreCon.
Yeah.
Because it fits in with our topic.
Okay. All right. I'll do that. Wait, you already know what we're going to talk about on Thursday?
Oh.
I do. I can see into the future.
Nani. So anyway, we have quite a few updates on previous topics here for this week, but there's some real juicy ones. So I did want to talk about it quite a bit and also get Pyro's outlook on it because of course he wasn't here last week, so he didn't hear our talking about Telltale. But so. I did want to first go over the fact that a game that I think our audience should know about, certainly the audience that watches our Let's Plays on Lotus Prince's channel, certainly likes watching us play visual novels and adventure-type games. Those are the ones you pretty much get the best ratings on, wouldn't you say, the most views? Lotus?
As far as the co-op stuff is concerned, yeah, I mean, it's almost unfair to say that because I haven't done too terribly much outside of those kinds of games. Like,
Okay.
we did Golden
Fair
Axe together, like the three of us, but a lot of times I did the first thing I did was a point and click with Old Man Stompy, but otherwise it's been the sort of interactive experiences. So we've done a few visual novels. Pyro and I did Danganronpa, working on 999.
We've done Snatcher and Police now.
We're still working on Danganronpa 2.
Yeah, kind of. But, I mean, those are really good just to do co-op because there's a lot of room to talk because there's text and things like that, and it's still images. It's not like, quick, I have to react to this.
I mean, yes and no, because the one issue about, I think, streaming games like that is... You want either, like what we did in Danganronpa is we voice all the characters.
Yeah.
All 16 plus characters.
Yeah.
So on the other hand, there's like not much room for talking over it because you probably want, even if you're not voicing over the lines, your audience probably wants to read it. So if we weren't voicing the lines, we'd have to wait because they're reading it and it can get kind of awkward. Whereas if you're playing a game that is like an action game, let's say, you kind of need to fill up the silence with talking.
Well, that's the whole thing. And regarding filling up the silence or like letting the other characters talk, as far as 999, I don't know about the DS release, but the PS4 version is fully voiced. But you have an option to turn the voices off, and we did that because if we didn't, then basically the only time we could talk would be during the escape sequences. And
it's
those
like
are
watching
few and far
a movie.
between. Yeah, it would be a let's watch. It's like, okay.
Yeah. So,
some people like that, though.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. But it's a different type of thing than we offer as part of what we offer in terms of entertainment. But what I was going to bring up, and I should have brought this up during CoreCon last week because we talked all about visual novels and this type of game, but I didn't realize one had actually stealth released last week, and Axis kind of does this sometimes. So the new Jake Hunter for 3DS released with a physical copy at that to a lot of GameStops, and unless you reserved it, basically each GameStop got like one copy. So definitely like seek it out if you like detective type adventure games for the 3DS and portable systems.
Yeah.
I love this genre. I haven't played any of the Jake Hunter games. We've only had two games in the series in English, but this being the second one. But I think it's one of those things where you don't really need to follow the story. They're all like episodes of a TV show. You know what I mean? Like each case is a thing.
And this is a case where I believe both games were released for the DS, and the one on 3DS is a re-release of one of them.
No. So
no.
Did you read up on this?
I looked up the titles online.
Okay.
Like the 3DS one is the same title as one of the DS ones.
Really?
Yeah, like Ghost something.
No. So the one for the there are two for the DS, and the
Ghost
DS...
of the Dusk. Yeah.
Okay. The first one is called. Let me see here. Jake Hunter Detective Chronicles.
Yes.
And then the game was re-released on the DS because they made a bad translation of it. And they also cut content out of it. So they re-released it with a better translation and all the content that was cut out as Jake Hunter Detective Story Memories of the Past. This is Jake Hunter Detective Story Ghost of the Dusk. So it's a completely different game from the DS one. So
yeah, I'm looking these up. So yeah, Ghost of the Dusk is for the 3DS for sure. Yeah, there's Detective Chronicles and Detective Story. That's what it was. Detective Chronicles and Detective Story. Okay.
Yeah. So that's just the name of the overall series. Okay. So anyway, what I wanted to say was that this is a long-running series in Japan. It's been a series since the Famicom Disk System. So it is not important to American culture, but it is important to the legacy of this type of game in Japan. It's a very long-running series. It has a lot of following in Japan. So pick it up, if you have any interest in this type of noir type story. I certainly do, so I can't wait to play it.
Yeah,
of course, going to play the DS one first, but
I actually had to order this one off of the website because, like you said, like the guy at I went to look at the store at GameStop today, and the employee told me that if they hadn't reserved any, they didn't even get any. So
yeah,
it was just
exactly.
not on,
oh wow!
It just wasn't on the shelves of. You know how you could check inventory via the website. It just didn't appear to be in any store in the area.
So, I just wanted to bring that up real quick and let everybody know to look out for it, because I think our audience at least has some passing interest, at least in this.
Cool.
But there were a couple other big things that happened. So, you had a story about Valve that you wanted to talk about, right, Pyro?
Yes.
Pyro? I don't know much about this one.
This is going to be an interesting story. So I'm going to try to tell it where I'm not giving it away at the beginning. So for those of you who don't know, Valve is creating a digital card game, like in the veins of, let's say, Hearthstone, around their Dota franchise. It's called Artifact. So just like Magic the Gathering, there's different color cards. Like, I don't know what colors, but there's, let's say, black, white, blue, red, etc. So just like in Magic, there's the wording of cards like target black creature, blah, 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 blah. So this one card says modify target black hero to do whatever, like whenever something happens, all black heroes gain this. The name of the card, so remember what I just said, the name of the card is called Crack the Whip.
Oh good.
Man.
That reminds me
How
of
can
the
you be
Magic the
so
Gathering
fucking
card.
tone deaf?
So it's like
Jeff.
that,
oh, God.
That's what I was saying. So I was talking to my fiance about this, and her and her sister like realized what I was getting at right away when I said crack the whip, modify black hero. Obviously, it's tone deaf, and I don't want to assume anything. I was trying to be like, well, they have to make hundreds of cards a day, but still, this probably passed. My fiance said this passed probably 4 people before it became ready to see online.
That's the whole thing.
Not only did someone create it, there was a copy editor, there was a tester, and they
we
all
got
looked
it
at
immediately. We got it immediately.
Yes.
Well, that's the thing. Like, I see somebody missing this, but everybody missing this? Come on.
And that's the thing is, like, granted, the way that I'm approaching this is I'm telling you, hey, something's wrong. Yeah. Here's the thing that's wrong. But either way, we're all getting this right away when we read it. Like, how could you miss that? Now, I don't want to assume that all the people who looked at it are white, but I'm just going to say that is it's an interesting scenario. They fixed it. They called it something else. I just wanted to bring it up that sometimes it's good to have diversity in the workforce, so these things don't happen.
Mm-hmm.
Well, here's what I'm assuming happened, because I've been in the workplace. And not that you guys haven't, but I've been in the corporate environment for a very long time. And you guys less so.
I mean, I bet my job is kind of corporate in a way, but I see what you're saying.
Okay. That's besides my point. My point is that I've been in situations where people have pointed shit like this out, and they go, no, you're crazy. Let's just go ahead and do it.
Gotcha.
Yeah, well, that's actually what I've heard about QA in a lot of games, where people are like, how the hell did you miss this bug? And somebody replied, they probably didn't. It was probably just considered, acceptable enough.
Yeah.
Somebody probably brought it up. I'm going to go ahead and say somebody probably brought it up, and they ignored them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I was going to say that in the work that I do with computer science education, this is kind of parallel to this conversation. Is one of the conversations I have with a lot of the teachers that I train is talking about algorithm bias, and you could probably assume what that means. If only one race of people are creating an algorithm, obviously it's going to be biased towards what they know, not necessarily their racial tendencies, but it's their train of thought. For instance, the facial unlock software for iPhones was probably created with white people because the white people probably created it, and so they're looking at certain things, and because of that, what happened was in China, there's a story where many people could unlock someone's phone, because the things it notices on faces made them all register as being the same face.
Wow. Yeah.
So,
No. I can understand. I totally get it. Even the Kinect, the original Kinect, had that issues with African American people. They didn't even test it with them. Extremely dark skinned people, we just wouldn't even recognize them as there.
Yeah.
So it's ridiculous they don't think of these things.
Yep.
Well, the thing is, somebody's going to make that mistake. What I find is ridiculous is that this mistake is still happening. It's been it's been decades of we need to have awareness, and people still don't have awareness.
Mm-hmm.
It's because the people in corporate are really just pushing ahead and trying.
And they care more about the money than they do about
exactly
these. But yeah, so the other thing that I wanted to talk about is, I'm hoping this is really quick, because this is kind of just a joke topic that I wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
So they are. I think this was them porting New Super Mario Brothers onto Switch.
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
And one of the
Super Mario
things
Brothers U, actually.
Yeah. So one of the things they added was this item, a power-up called the Princess Crown. And when Toadette picked it up, she looked kind of like Peach. And people were like this. People went crazy on this for several reasons. One of those is they imagined all sorts of Mario characters as turning into Peach. And two of the biggest ones are Bowsette. So I think it's been a running thing anyway with a female Bowser. And people just started going crazy with this. And then the other one is Bowsette.
Yeah.
So people started imagining King Boo as a female. Let's just put it this way. The internet can be crazy and weird sometimes. One other thing I wanted to add, though, if you weren't aware, there was an art book, I think, for New Super Mario U, or something along those lines. Or no, so for Mario Odyssey, there was an art book, and in that art book, there was actually a female Bowser.
Oh, really?
Oh, really?
That was unrelated to a power-up. It was just a female version of Bowser.
Wow, I never knew that.
And so this is actually, in a way, nothing new to Nintendo. They just haven't basically made it official.
But
Wow.
this does kind of remind me, speaking of taking a concept and running with it, I remember even when Mario Odyssey first came out, everyone was like, wait, so when you throw the hat on things, you become them? Does that imply that Mario was really the hat the whole time and it's possessing some human and stuff like that? And people were like, the hat is the true hero.
And also there were some people who imagined what it would be like if Bowser had that sort of ability. What things would look like if Bowser took him over, and it wouldn't just be a hat and a mustache.
Yeah, well, the funny thing is, we have canonically Bowser has used Mario power-ups before in I think it was like 3D Land or something. Like that was like just a really interesting thing to see, and you're like, oh shit, so does that imply that Bowser like actually could use the Princess Crown if he found it? Like just weird stuff like that just made it amusing.
I know this is like kind of spoilery, so if you really care, please skip ahead about like a minute. But in Mario Odyssey, at the end, you could control Bowser. You could possess him.
Oh yeah, I saw that in a speed run. Yeah, that's one of those things that like I wish I didn't know, but at the same time, it's gonna be years before I fucking play this game, so whatever.
Well, it's just a really cool moment. You don't, you just realize what you have to do in that situation is to control Bowser as he's passed out.
I really really like twists like that at the end.
Yeah.
Like whenever, okay, so I'm not gonna spoil this, but the Final Destination movies, I'll have to say that they started to get worse as they went, but the end of Final Destination 5 blew my mind.
Okay.
I'm just gonna say that it connects to like, because the only movies that really connected was the first and the second one.
Yeah.
Because the second one was kind of like a direct sequel to the first one.
Yep.
And then the other two were kind of just parallel to it. They had some connections, but it didn't really feel like it kind of felt like they were in the same world, but that's about it. Whereas then the end in 5, you're thinking the same thing, but the end they connect it, and it's like, holy shit. It was pretty cool.
Well, the thing I was thinking of regarding what you were saying about a certain thing I'm not going to repeat in Mario Odyssey, when you have that realization, like, that's what I have to do, my first thought was, again, I'm not going to tell you what it was, but the last thing you have to do in Portal 2, where like you're looking around and you're like, don't even tell me. Like that's like the coolest thing.
Yeah, exactly. A really cool moment. But I think this is good fun. Though I do have to point out that the nomenclature for Bowsette is completely wrong. Because Peachette is a combination of Peach and Toadette.
Yes.
It should be Bowsette.
Bowser.
Or
Well,
Bowser.
if it's Peachette, Peach comes first. So yeah, like Peach-zer or something stupid
Peach-zer
sounding.
or Pooh.
Well, you know what this is. You know what this is like. This is like when people saw Inception, and then they called everything like, "Yo, dog, I heard you like cars, so we put a car in your car," like, and they're like, "Oh, carception." I'm like, no, that would be Inception again. Like, it's just it's like you're doing
it's just Inception.
And the same thing with every controversy. It's insert noun here, gate, and I'm like, you do realize Watergate had nothing to do with water, right? The place was called Watergate.
Yeah. And people called it Whitewater Gate because they were gross, and somehow that got past censors. But I mean, really. I mean, everybody just adds gate at the end because it's just what they call controversies.
Yeah, I mean, like, you do, to be fair, you do immediately know what it means, but it's like, no, it was called the Watergate because it was at the Watergate.
At the Watergate
Hotel.
Hotel.
I think, it's, you kind of have to balance understanding this, like being able to connect it to other things.
That's the thing, yeah. You take a known quantity and you apply it to another thing. Yeah. So I get it. It's irritating, but it's still the best way.
Yes. Especially for grammar Nazis like you.
I know. Like, this is one of those things I'm going to have to suck up because it's like, well, I do get it.
It's like knowing how to pronounce, like, French words, but having to say noir anyway. Because, I sound like an asshole if I say noir.
You know what gets me, even though nobody ever uses this word, is quixotic, because it's named after Don Quixote. Shouldn't it be Quixotic? Or Los Angeles.
Yes.
Shouldn't it be Los Angeles?
Yeah. No, exactly. Well, we have other topics here, so we should move on here. This one is about Sony's actually made an about face on a decision, which is actually very wise, but I didn't expect them to.
And it's like the funniest part is, I mean, I don't have their what they said in front of me, but the way they said it is them kind of tiptoeing around the fact that the reasons why they said they couldn't. They're like, oh, well, we found out that it was actually good business sense to, like, and that that we figured out how to get it to work. But really, the answer is Fortnite is changing the world.
Well, that's the thing, because like that would have been a perfectly reasonable excuse if they hadn't already doubled down by saying, well, the Sony console's the best one to use anyway, so fuck it.
Hold up, guys. We got to explain what we're talking about. So about a month ago or so, Fortnite is going to be releasing on consoles and like all of them,
Switch and 360, and it released on basically all the consoles
on Xbox One,
but yeah,
and Switch. The only console to not have crossplay with other platforms was Sony's, and that's not usually how they roll. But usually Nintendo's the holdout. But they enough people complained. They said, "Oh, well, we're the best place to play it." Oddly, ironically, they are the worst place to play that game.
But not
that specific game.
But not only that, like even if they are the best place to play it, it's like all my friends own Xboxes. So what do you want them to do? Spend $400 each on PS4 so they can play your free Fortnite?
Well, I think that is what they want.
I know, but like, come on.
Yeah, so now everybody will be able to play everybody else. I don't know if they're allowed to play PC. Are they going to be allowed to play PC and mobile people? Or
I think it's going to be... Well, does PC and mobile have crossplay?
I don't think so, because there's a massive disadvantage to being on mobile.
Does PC and like Xbox One and Switch have crossplay? Because I think
that's my question. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
I think they do. Yeah.
All those consoles do, but I don't think mobile is. Although, I mean, we might get corrections on this, but I think it is on mobile. But like, you can determine if you want, like, mobile players can choose if they want to be in the same lobby as console or not.
So it's almost like when you're playing multiplayer games and you can like filter which which signals you're interested in. Like you might filter out people with a low signal, they bring your whole game down or something.
I think so. I'm not 100% sure.
I think you might be right about that. But there's also one other thing that I heard about this. I think the console versions, or at least the Xbox One version, is going to have keyboard and mouse support. It's the first game to have it.
That's an advantage.
Well, I think it's in response to having crossplay with the PC players. They don't want their players to have a disadvantage.
I mean that's a big deal in all sorts of games like this. Any game that has like one-to-one mouse lock is going to win against a game where you're at the mercy of the speed of your stick. You can set the stick speed, but it's still going to be a constant whatever it is, instead of like a flick of your wrist versus a whole drag across the mouse pad or something.
For sure.
But yeah, I mean, I think it's I mean, let's ignore how Sony went about announcing that they're going to have crossplay, or like their reasoning. I still think that it's good that they're finally doing this.
Yeah.
I think in their wording they kind of said that they're going to decide per game. So they might not do it for all games, but this is making me really hopeful for the future of gaming, because in the ideal world, all systems are crossplay, because you shouldn't punish, like I think Lotus, what you said, you shouldn't punish someone because all their friends have a system, but you, like, if I prefer PS4 and the two of you preferred Xbox One, we should still be able to play together. You shouldn't force me to buy another system just so I can play with my friends.
Yeah, exactly.
Access to the ecosystem within that game shouldn't be limited. It should be within that game rather than within the system and within the game.
And when you think about it, like, I know that money kind of makes the world go round, and I can see why on one hand they think it's a poor business decision to do crossplay, but if you think about it, if the two of you played Fortnite on Xbox One or Destiny 2 on Xbox One or whatever it might be, and I didn't have an Xbox One because I didn't, like, let's say before Fortnite even came out, you two both bought an Xbox One, I bought a PS4. We weren't necessarily planning on playing games together.
Yeah.
But then Fortnite came out, and the three of us really wanted to play it. And the two of you bought it, and the two of you played. But I'm like, well, I don't have money to buy an Xbox One.
Sure.
But if they made it crossplay, I might actually play Fortnite. And I might not have PS Plus, and then I might decide to pay for it so I can play online games or whatever it is. So it's one of those things where I think a lot of businesses don't have enough future sight So
Yeah,
like
you beat me to it. I was gonna go there.
the direct now, they might lose some money. It might not be good for them now, but in the future, they might get more money for people who are like, you know what, I'm going to pay for these things because I have it. And people might, I mean, I don't know. Like, I'm not a economist, so I can't say how it's going to actually work out. But to me, I feel like in the long run, it's probably better.
Well, yeah, I mean, I
business
just
sense.
My assumption is that if players are aware of the decisions being made, they'll probably lean toward, I would say one of two things, maybe both. They would either lean toward the company that's like more welcoming to them, or lean away from the companies that are actively dicks to them. Like, again, Sony's like, well, we're not going to do crossplay, but you should all get a PS4 anyway. It's like, go fuck yourself, man. Like, that kind of attitude is going to, like, dissuade customers. At this point, I mean, we've had this discussion before regarding internet piracy of movies and games and stuff, but
it's a similar idea.
The main commodity now is basically ease. Like convenience, efficiency.
Sure.
So if companies are going to help us out, you know, it is actually easier and safer to go to Steam or GOG and pay a couple bucks for a game instead of pirating it for nothing. So, like, again, if companies are willing to help the gamers out because the gamers are their support, like they're their base, then that's going to help build loyalty. If not to the company, then at least they're willing to give them the nod for this one thing.
So I did also want to bring up something else. You with Fortnite, let's say you do have multiple consoles, right? Let's say you have somebody who has an Xbox One and a PS4, and they have a PC. A game like Fortnite comes out, and you say, well, hell, if I'm going to play it on PS4, I'm going to play it on the other one of the other two. Doesn't matter which, right? Here's the big thing. Sony is going to miss out on all the revenue on loot boxes and stuff like that for that game.
Yep,
that's true.
Because they get a cut. They get a cut of any purchases on the store. Yeah.
So anybody with multiple platforms, and a lot of serious gamers have at least 2 platforms that they can game on. Most people have at least 2 things they could play games on. I'm gonna go and say
there's probably like a console, and most people have some kind of computer device or tablet or laptop or something.
Yeah, and I mean Fortnite you could play on a phone too. So they may the average user may even have 3 platforms to play this game on. So I mean not well with the mobile port, but actually they've made it really good.
It is popular
apparently.
on phones. I've seen middle school kids just whip out their phones and play it. It looks competent enough.
Well, it must be good enough then. But anyway, they'll miss out on that revenue. So it is a poor business decision to be the automatic worst version of this of the game, because your choice is not going to default to that. Now people just go onto PS4 because they have so many other games on PS4. I mean, if I was going to play it on console, I would just play it on PS4 because I hardly touch my Xbox One.
Yeah.
I barely touch it because it just doesn't have exclusives. It just doesn't. Not anymore, anyway. So anyway, we should move on. We have quite a few other topics. So, but I think this is a good step in the right direction. I think Rocket League did a lot of the work to get this kind of thing done. That was one of the very first cross-play games that I know of that was super popular. There were other experiments in it, like there was Shadowrun for 360 and PC. Those cross-play.
But Shadowrun wasn't that great of a game anyway.
It wasn't a good
so
game. Yeah, it wasn't a good game and it wasn't popular. But this is the first. Rocket League was the first time where I saw like lots of ecosystems joining. So this is a good thing. So anyway, we have some Minecraft news. I don't know much about that.
So so there's apparently like Minecon is going on or went on this weekend, and they announced basically what sounds just like a top-down dungeon crawler in the Minecraft world.
Interesting.
So I don't think it's based around like actual mining anymore. I think it's just like imagine you have your character Steve who has equipment, and you just go around killing denizens of the Minecraft world. And there's like floors and whatever. I don't know if it connects to Minecraft itself. I don't know if there's mod support with it or not. I'm pretty sure there is. I just thought it was a cool idea. So like I played Minecraft when it first came out, and I made a few things, but I kind of died off of it. Not like I'm really into it, but I feel like I'd try this out because
Sure.
it's a dungeon crawler, which I really like, and I really think the Minecraft aesthetic is pretty cool. So if it wasn't that expensive, I'd probably try it out. But I just wanted to bring it up because I find it cool how, granted, it's because they want to make money, but Minecraft is kind of doing all sorts of things. Like you have Minecraft, the base thing. You're going to have now Minecraft dungeons. You have Minecraft toys. You have the Minecraft. So this might be a good, unless people want to talk about it, this might be a good segue into the next topic. Minecraft, there's a Telltale Minecraft game called Story Mode.
Sure.
There's Minecraft books. And also, if you weren't aware, Minecraft Story Mode that Telltale made is also going to be going on to Netflix.
Yeah, I'd heard about that, yeah.
Yeah.
That was one of those few things that was being kept alive in Telltale, actually.
Yes, yeah, and that's really the only thing I wanted to say about Telltale is that they're closing. It's kind of like sad, but their games were kind of very samey anyway. Yeah. It's basically you find the game they made in the world you like, and you play it. Like, honestly, I played Tales from the Borderlands, and I loved it. I've been considering playing the Batman one, but really all their games are interactive stories anyway. And I kind of just heard that in the background. They were really poorly managed.
Sure.
I think that the saddest thing about this is like twofold. One, that they didn't give their employees any warning. They just said like, "Oh, we're closing. You have like a week to clear out." Which, if I don't know if you guys heard it or looked it up, but there has been a lawsuit against them because in a way that's illegal in California. You have to give your employees, I think, 60 days notice before just closing and firing them, doing mass firings. The other thing that's especially sad about that is they hired someone a week before this happened.
Yeah, we had mentioned that last week. Yeah, they had like flown from the East Coast to there.
It's fucked up.
Yeah.
This whole thing is fucked up, and it's like I think their games are okay, but this kind of left a poor taste in my mouth about Telltale, and like. Even if I'm interested in playing the games, I might not want to play them anymore just because I don't want to give them any, like, trickle funds.
Yeah, I don't blame you one bit.
You know, I get it, yeah.
We actually, Lotus and I talked about this online a little earlier in the week. There's actually a reason for the reason why they closed, and I kind of it was similar to what I had said last week. I had said that probably a very important investor pulled out all of the sudden, and they didn't expect it.
Like they were going to do a game in X world, and they just didn't end up wanting to do it anymore.
Well, it was their primary license. The Walking Dead pulled out. AMC pulled out, and they did not expect it. So they they had their pants pulled down in front of them, and they couldn't give anybody warning. But the way that they went about it was probably illegal and bad. Even after all that, I mean, they were hiring people the week before, so apparently that part wasn't their fault. They were genuinely trying to hire people.
Yeah.
But the fact is that because their business model so relied on them to pay for a game based on the next person in this game who they're going to make, like they didn't have any money saved up in case of a situation like this. They just assumed that whenever someone would want a game from them, they would just give them the money.
Yeah.
So
no, that's messed up, and they couldn't afford to pay people salaries, which they shouldn't be running on a like a near like baseline all the time. They shouldn't be doing that.
This is like classic putting your eggs in one basket. Like, don't.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, they have so many other licenses and other stuff that they had working on the background. It's just that they must have been running so close to like the bottom of the barrel as it was. It's so bizarre. That just one of their licenses can cut out, and like they have so many licenses. They even have Marvel. They have Guardians of the Galaxy. And that's owned by Disney. You can't get bigger than that in terms of entertainment companies. It's bizarre. I think that I mean, just like you said, they were essentially had a product where they could fit anything into it. It's kind of like the Lego games. You know, the Lego games, like you just pick the one you like. It's like the Warriors games too, the Dynasty Warriors type of games, the Musou games. You pick the ones you like. You don't play them all, right? But
apparently, also the Telltale engine was very buggy, and they would just never take the time to fix it because they had to keep getting new games going and going because they relied on that money.
Yeah.
So they never had time to actually fix the engine. So that's another issue entirely too.
Oh yeah, I heard that it was basically the same one since the very beginning. So like if they wanted to evolve it at all, they basically had to put band-aids on things, you know? Mm-hmm. So, real tragic, and, we can't talk enough about it, I'm sure, but we do have other topics, so I do want to move on, essentially because we've covered this topic twice, but, this is good for
updates. No, you
just
wanted to hear my thoughts.
Oh, sure. Do you have anything else to add? Because I
know
that's
really all I thought. It's sad. And it sucks that this can happen. I think the other thing that sucks the most about it, and this is the last thing I really want to say, is this kind of also goes to show you how different labor laws are in America. This would not be okay in a lot of European countries for them to just say, "Oh, we're closing next week. You got to move out." It's kind of sad that Americans kind of feel like this way. They feel that they can use their employees this way sometimes.
Yeah, no, I know a lot of people who are getting chewed up and spit out right now. And by their various industries. It's not even just like one industry. It's a corporate culture problem that we have in America, where more and more they're expected to do work on weekends and unpaid work, and you guys being in the education industry have had to deal with it forever.
Oh yes.
And I had to deal with it when I was in it, and I deal with it constantly in the sales industry. Now, at least I can kind of make the argument that if I am working after hours, it might result in a sale, so that's a commission that I'm working for. Mm-hmm. But my salary doesn't cover me during that time period. For instance, if I get a call on the weekend or something, I'm technically not expected to be working, but if I don't answer that call, I'm basically saying, I could put it off.
I don't need the money.
Well, no. It's more like I have to make a decision to respect my own boundaries, or work all the time, and and in the end, you kind of have to put your foot down somewhere, and also be judicious. Like if I have a client that I know is going this is a call I have to take. I'm going to take it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But it's just one of those things. Oh well, sometimes you have to deal with it. But I know plenty of people. Even people from Telltale that were complaining about the crunch time that they did just to complete a project, and they didn't get paid for that. They did what they had to do in order to complete the game, and the game is their livelihood, so they need to complete the game.
Yeah, that's another thing that's really frustrating is overtime pay should exist. You get paid for your work. There really should be a thing where it's I'll do overtime if you pay me for it. This goes back to the European argument. I know, but so don't blame me when I go home when we clock out, it just reminds me, I heard that in Germany, your boss, will genuinely get mad at you if you stay after hours. They're no, go the fuck home, time's up.
Yeah, I mean, in New Zealand, I heard this on the Jim Jeffries show of all places, but apparently at a financial firm, they started instituting something like 35-hour work weeks, and productivity skyrocketed.
Well, of course.
Yeah,
I mean, how productive are you at 8 in the morning when you're groggy from bed?
Well, not even that. It's more I now only because I think I've told my boss this, and I think we should move on after this. But
sure,
that I have an 8-hour workday. An hour of that's lunch. Honestly, I'm not working for those 7 hours, and I think most people don't work for the whole 7 hours. I'm pretty sure the first hour I'm just getting situated at work. I'm tired, whatever.
Everybody is.
The last hour, it's probably the same thing. I probably only actually work for 4 to 5 hours in a day, and I get my shit done. It's not like I'm pressed for time. So the thing is, if you have less time in a day to work, you'll still get the same amount of work done because you're like, I only have 5 hours to get this done, so I'm going to get it done. Also, knowing the fact that you're there for 5 hours, you get all your stuff done, you go home, you have more time at home. People are going to still get the same amount of work done in a day or a week, let's say. That has nothing to do with how many hours they're there.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. They've even done tests on it. We went over this in our MBA program, me and Lotus. People can only pay attention to something for 3 hours, just about. You can force yourself to do it, but your attention span and productivity go way down.
You're gonna fade out.
Yeah. So that 3 hours, if you don't switch modes, like you're done with it. Like you aren't doing it as well, nearly as well as you could be, and you can't even help it. That's the thing. Like it's not a matter of will; it's a matter of like your brain just doesn't work like that.
Yep.
You know, and that's why I think like cramming for a test is always really awful. Because
that's all well and good if the test is 5 minutes from now and you kind of have it, but like, I wouldn't recommend it anyway.
Yeah, but even so, it's the worst. It's the worst way to study.
It really is.
So we'll move on to this. AGDQ is always a great topic that I like talking about. I always have Lotus give me the highlights because he always picks out great stuff.
I know you don't just sit there watching marathons and marathons. Like I actually do for the GDQ. Like I don't always marathon things, but like I am addicted to the speedruns.
I was gonna say it's actually funny. Every single time we talk about the awesome games done quick, I'm always like, I don't watch it, but I feel like I'm breaking. Like the more, the more that we talk about it, like all the time, the more I'm like, maybe I should watch.
I mean, a lot of it is traditional speedruns, but like every once in a while, there's something I'll mention to you guys, like the one from like a year ago, like, oh, this guy beat 2 Punch-Out games simultaneously with one controller. It's like, wait, what? Like, that's worth seeing. It's like little things like that.
It's like going to the circus, but for video games.
It kind of is.
Yeah. It's
2-player Contra in like under 10 minutes.
It's really cool to watch people play a game in a way you never, ever, 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 ever thought about playing it, or, neither did the developers. The developers did not want you to play it like this.
Yeah, beating Wind Waker without the Master Sword, like the powered up Master Sword, and without ever getting the boat. Like, this can be done.
Without getting the boat.
The sailing game without the boat.
Mechanic of the entire game.
Yep, it's fantastic.
How do you play it without the boat? Like, how do you get to another island?
You basically, I don't remember exactly what they did, but it's kind of like you glitch up against the wall to the, you know how in Portal, like you glitch into a corner and the game kind of pushes you through?
Oh,
so
the
game basically
Portal
pushes...
glitches, man.
Yeah,
Portal
so
glitches are insane.
Yeah, so Wind Waker basically, like you glitch yourself up against some slope or whatever, and it pushes you, and you just go at like 1,000 miles an hour across the ocean. But technically, you are swimming, so you do have a limited air supply, but you should get to the islands in time. So, like, you're just rocketing across the map faster than even the teleport song would take you.
Wow.
It's amazing.
Nuts. That's really cool. I particularly like the funny ones. Like you showed me that one for the Ninja Gaiden for the Sega Master System. The
playthrough was perfectly standard speedrun fare, but the guy's commentary was like the driest thing in the fucking world. Like he made me look like goofy all the time. Like I like to think that my sense of humor is usually pretty dry, but this guy was a whole other level of existence. It was fantastic. The best part was when he beat the game. He's like, well, like that's Ninja Gaiden. I won't be back. He just leaves. Everyone's like, what? It was the funniest damn thing.
No, that was very entertaining. People should look up that one. It's very good. It's also one of my favorite games. I like that game, and that game gets no love or attention.
Because no one knows it exists. Ninja Gaiden on the Master System? What? But I just love
it's a unique game too. It's not a port or anything.
He beats the boss. It's like this robot melted Terminator skeleton face. He's just like, that's my face when I beat this game. It's like, what? This is the driest man on earth. It was great.
But yeah, are you looking forward to any particular events or any particular games? I know you tend to like certain like
kinds of games.
well, you look forward to certain things like when Splatoon 2 came out, you're like, I can't wait for it this year. Is there anything
Yeah,
like
because
that?
I actually don't know what the lineup is,
Okay.
but like I would look forward to Splatoon 1 or 2 because the platform, like I don't tend to really like games where you heavily exploit glitches and then the game craps out and then you're in the end credits, you know. I tend to like playing the game straight just with godlike talent. So I really enjoy watching like Splatoon or like 100% like every shine sprite in Mario Sunshine or every jiggy and musical note in Banjo-Kazooie. Like those runs are insane to watch because they don't glitch through walls too often. It's usually just they're really good at the game. What can I say? I also kind of like the beat 'em ups or like the Contra style games because it's just again just maximum efficiency. Like this past GDQ, somebody beat Streets of Rage 2 on Mania mode, which is fucking ridiculous. I think they died like once or twice, which is about 1,000 times fewer than when I die when I played Mania mode. That game is insanely hard on Mania mode. So yeah, I'm hyped in general. They're probably gonna open with the cool new game. So whatever really major release comes out, that's probably what they're gonna get on. Like some game that comes out like now or like a month or two ago. Like I wouldn't be surprised if this is kind of cheating because it's a port to the Switch, but if they did like Tropical Freeze or if they did Mario Odyssey again or something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
Who hosts Awesome Games Done Quick? Like is it its own little company, like quote unquote?
I mean,
do they get like sponsors or anything?
They definitely have sponsors.
Okay.
And they at this point it used to be like a room, but now they have like this whole center. They're in I forgot where they were, like Los Angeles or Las Vegas or something, but like there's this major gathering there. They do have sponsors like the Yeti, like the t-shirt company. And I think they might have one or two other people that generally chip in, but I don't know if I could tell you like the person who hosts it or anything like that.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I think it's just kind of like MagFest has their own organization,
Yeah, well, I was just asking because I was wondering if the games that are there, like if any companies say like, hey, we'll give you some money if you have some speedruns for our games.
There's a chance, but a lot of the time it's like the way you get into GDQ is you post your YouTube or your Twitch video of your speedrun, and that's your that's your application.
Gotcha.
So there probably have been examples where companies wanted to pimp out one game or another, but I'm not 100% on this. There have been a couple of cases where they've had the developers in on the speedrun, but I think that was more of like amusing guest appearances than sponsorship. So I don't know. I think if there were a company that wanted it sponsored, they'd probably say so. I don't remember anything like that, but there may have been something like that before. But I mean, there's a whole range of new games to retro and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I would
know.
also say that maybe some of the companies wouldn't find this kind of thing to be something they're particularly proud of because a lot of people are exploiting glitches in a lot of these runs. So I would
I
say
could see I could see like indie developers
Oh,
being
yeah.
more interested than AAA developers.
Some indie developers have
say
actually said specifically that they have made their games with speedrunning in mind. Like at this point, like more recent games, they're like, we know somebody's going to
speedrun
speedrun
like
this.
The glitchy speedruns.
Yeah, the glitchy
Like,
speedruns. Yeah, the indie devs are probably like, oh, whoa, how about that? I didn't know, but like, actually, that happened with Double Dragon Neon. It was really funny to hear the people on the phone, like, or on Skype, like the devs of Double Dragon Neon, where the player, like there were a couple of glitches where they're like, oh yeah, there's that, yeah, I know, but there was a pretty funny one where it was a really minor one where the player's like, now if you run forward to this area where the knife comes flying at you, but quickly run back, you just spawn it, and you just hear one of the devs on the phone like, what? It was like really funny, like a glitch I did not know anything about. So it's kind of funny when you have even developers of bigger games like Psychonauts, when you show them like 10 years later how fucked you can make their game, and they're like, it's kind of funny.
Yeah.
Wow. I do like seeing that kind of stuff, but it's never something I want to get into and do myself.
Yes,
you know what I mean?
definitely. I don't.
It's like scientific for me, but
Yeah.
And I don't have the
But,
patience to play
yeah.
one game over and over and over again to do it that quickly. Like,
Yeah.
I'm okay with getting better. Like, let's put it this way: for a game like the Dark Souls games, you have to do things over and over again to beat the game.
Yeah.
But once I've beaten the game, I don't usually. I mean, I get that feeling when I beat a game where I'm like, I kind of want to keep playing this, but there's nothing left to do.
Yeah.
But I never want to play it again to be like, let me see if I can beat it quicker. Let me see if I can get to this thing faster. That
Yeah.
doesn't interest me. It's the same reason why. It's a similar reason why I don't play games on hard mode, because I'm like, I beat it. I had fun. Cool.
Exactly.
Let's move
I mean, I could see it as
Me
far
too.
as like, oh damn, I died from the boss. How do I get back to the boss faster? Because I don't feel like doing this
Yes.
again. But
Yeah.
but I will say one other thing about GDQ, which is cool, is it is in a lot of cases quite worth it to watch speedruns of games that you've actually already seen speedrun. Number one, it might be done by someone different. Number two, you never know what the commentary is exactly going to be like. But the big one, number three, is sometimes there have actually been new developments in speedrunning. Like the Wind Waker thing I mentioned, not the swimming. Believe it or not, people knew about that already. But the powering up the Master Sword. I've mentioned this on the podcast once before. But Pyro, did you play Wind Waker?
I did not.
Okay, well, the thing with Wind Waker is you get the Master Sword, but it's kind of like Ocarina of Time. You know how Ganon's castle is like surrounded by a force field, so you gotta like do something about it. So in Ocarina of Time's case, it was beat every other dungeon. That's pretty much there you go. But in Wind Waker's case, you do have to beat the other like two dungeons, but they power up the Master Sword because when you walk up to Ganon's castle and you hit the force field, it shatters. So the thing
Gotcha.
is, people actually found a way to like clip through the force field and get into Ganon's tower, and they hadn't done that the last time they had speedrun the game. So because they had found this clip without having to power up the Master Sword, that skips two dungeons. Like that one little technique for the speedrun saved them like 2.5 hours. It was fucking ridiculous.
Yeah, I think it's interesting how this has gotten to like. So I'm gonna make an interesting analogy. Like this has gotten to like Olympic level, like
Yeah.
thinking in a sense
Oh,
of
sure.
um, speed runs are not about like, oh, I did this a second quicker or 2 seconds quicker. Oh, I did this 0.5 second or 0.1 second quicker. I now have the record. I think like that's cool how some
Yeah.
games have like it's like a logarithmic in a way where people are getting to be so quick on these that you have to shave it by like 0.001 seconds now
Yep.
to actually get a faster time.
Yeah, no,
Wow.
I mean, I remember mentioning this before to you, I think, actually. I remember seeing like a Mario 64 speedrun where they had always speedrun the game in Japanese because Japanese is faster. But then later they realized that Japanese text does, in fact, scroll faster than American, but there's more text to scroll through. So, whoops, we're playing it in English now and saving like milliseconds with each text box to the
Yep,
point where by the time
yep.
you finish the game, you might have saved a couple seconds.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm excited. I mean, I'm excited to see the highlights. It's just like me with wrestling and
Yeah.
everything else, and everything else where I barely follow it. But I do want to see what comes up this year because especially with a lot of the Nintendo games, a lot of them have like fun physics
Yeah.
things that you could do, especially like things like Mario Odyssey. I want to see
Oh
some
yeah,
crazy stuff that
the
can
Mario
happen
Odyssey
in
and
that.
Sunshine and Galaxy, you could have a field day with. Oh, and by the way, one other thing, I alluded to this before, but there are so many games, there are so many speedrunners over a week that there are serious runners, there are funny runners, there are runners who don't talk and their friends talk behind them because they're too busy concentrating. So it's also a performance. Like people, it's actually come to the point. I wasn't a fan of a lot of the moments of the Mario Odyssey speedrun commentary because they had actually scripted it. Like, people were talking to a script because, I mean, there is a logic to it. The game's so long and you want to talk about the tips and tricks, but when you start scripting the jokes, it gets a little weird. But I can see that working, but it gets a little weird. Also, there are other gimmicks, like races. I remember a few years ago, there was a Ninja Gaiden race where I think it was two players racing each other, but they had this was a first actually. They had like co-commentators that like bounced off of each other. That was like a radical idea at the time instead of one person commentating. So people were giving each other breaks for commentary, but they were also adding their own perspectives to events, and it really was like watching a sports game on TV. Like, what an incredible trick he did! That's right, John. Like, it was amazing. Like, it really worked better than you'd think it would.
Wow.
I think the biggest hurdle I have to start watching these is, like you said, there's so many things going on. It's hard to find the ones that are good. Like, I don't have time to watch every single video of these. So it's more like, if there was a easy way of being like, oh, these are like the top 5 speedruns, I might watch that.
Well, AGDQ's never done this before. They've done it like for the first time, I think, this past run, but they actually made their own highlight video, not of entire games, but particularly amusing moments. Otherwise, you could just have a friend filter things through. Like, I mean, I'm going to do it anyway, but I could filter like cool runs to watch. But otherwise, if you don't know any of that, just pick a game that you're interested in seeing run. Just like look up the name of the game itself. I would like to see this game fast.
Lester the Unlikely.
I think someone might have actually done that. But as you watch more and more speedruns, you kind of see which kinds of games you like being run. Like, there are certain kinds of games, like there's certain kinds of runs I'm just not interested in, and maybe I'll watch them later on, like just if I'm thinking of something to watch and I can't think of anything. But normally, like, I have the stuff I like, and like if you watch enough of these, you'll kind of develop a feeling for it too. So it can be fun for that reason as well.
Gotcha.
Wow. Well, I certainly look forward to that. I think we have one other major topic here, and I wanted to talk about it because it's something that we talked about in depth on Recon in a previous week here. But Nintendo Online had a few clarifications, and also the initial reviews are in. Also on how the games function. So Nintendo actually clarified on their cloud saving service, and this is actually a big relief to a lot of people. And it's actually very generous. In fact, it's better than a lot of other companies. So their cloud saving service, if you stop subscribing to Nintendo Online, they will retain your saves for 6 months. Now.
That's a relief.
Most companies only do it for like a month or 2. So you can access your save files for up to 6 months. So you can rejoin Nintendo Online if you have a lapse in payment.
Well, that's good. I know that Nintendo's always behind, but it's good that they're let's put it this way: Nintendo's usually behind in tech, let's say, a lot of times, but they are more often than not pretty generous when they actually catch up.
Yeah, in fact, when they finally decided to do DLC, they did it in probably one of the best ways possible. A lot of their DLC is done in an ecosystem way. In kind of like Shovel Knight, where they will just continue to add free content as long as as long as the game is popular initially. Like they did that with ARMS. They added way more content to that game than they ever planned on adding to it.
Because people played it.
Because people liked it. So they rewarded their fan base, and they wanted to get people to keep buying it. And they've actually proven that this works. Like Binding of Isaac sometimes does this. Well, they'll release an additional content, and people will just buy the game, because it's in the news again.
They do release official expansions that you paid for, but the last thing they did was like those booster packs, and that just showed up, which was kind of nice.
Well, even their paid DLC tends to be extensive.
Yes. I remember even Wrath of the Lamb. I think that was the first ever DLC. It was like $5 or $10 or something, but that was like an additional like 120 hours of play.
Well, I'm also talking about Nintendo's paid DLC is always seems to be really good. Like when they were doing it with Mario Kart 8, it was excellent. And the Mario Brothers or the Smash Brothers DLC content was excellent as well. So
and it just kept coming. Like, damn.
And they added stuff that you would actually want and didn't mind paying for.
And speaking of which, I mean, we've had this conversation before at length, but Smash Ultimate, like the new characters coming to Ultimate are conspicuously characters that people have loudly and vehemently requested. Like King K. Rool and Simon Belmont, like the characters that I don't know about K. Rool, but like Belmont and like in the original game, Cloud, I would have sworn up and down are never gonna happen. But like, no, those are the ones. And Ridley was another one everyone wanted. It's like, no, come on, how are you gonna implement Ridley? But no, they're doing it now.
Waluigi's the only one, the only big holdout, I think. But
yeah, that's probably like as a joke too.
The urban champion. That's another big holdout.
Where's the urban champion? I can't believe he's not in this. Where's a Bobo?
Actually, that would be awesome if they added Techno's characters. That would be really cool.
No, what they need to add is Bimmy and Jammy.
Bimmy and Jammy. But anyway, I did want to bring that up, that they redeemed themselves in that regard. The early reviews for apparently the clarity of the games is very good, like on the service, like the Nintendo games that are on there. Keep your expectations in check, though. Most of them are very early NES games, and you're playing Balloon Fight, that kind of thing. Not that Balloon Fight's a bad game. It's just not. It's not the games that you really want to play.
Finally, 2018 Nintendo Switch. What do you have to offer? Like a fucking.
Like I said, they always have like 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Like they have their heart in the right place, but at times they don't really do everything that they probably could. But they're at least they're doing something. Let's put it this way.
Yeah. Well, the major problem is that the lag isn't very good. The latency isn't very good, rather. So the lag is heavy. So that's not good, especially in a Nintendo game that needs twitch reflexes.
Which I think a lot of them did. So
yeah. And the final thing being the way people were kind of assuming that you could get in on playing randos online. Go into a lobby and play. Somebody in ice hockey or something like that. That is not the case. You can only play your friends.
Yeah, still with the friend codes, yeah.
That stinks, because being able to play a random person like, and have like a tournament even with like some of those old games, like ice hockey is a pretty good game. It's one of Nintendo's later sports releases.
I was never really into the original Nintendo Entertainment System, but I have to admit, ice hockey is legit. That game sells.
There are 2 hockey games for the system that are fantastic. Blades of Steel and Ice Hockey. You can argue whether either one is better. I think Blades of Steel is better, but that's what I grew up with. But I could totally see why you would like Ice Hockey better.
Well, it's the same thing for me. I don't know Blades of Steel. I saw Ice Hockey way back in the day. I was like, okay.
They're both excellent. So what I'm saying is that is one of the games you would want to play a tournament in, let's say, like in a lobby setting. That's it's not a very simplistic game it's not as simplistic as like their version of baseball, let's say. Their version of baseball is terrible. Their version of tennis is terrible. But their version of ice hockey is quite good. So you would want to play that, and you just can't do it in the way that you would want or expect.
You even get a halftime show.
Exactly.
And you get the Zamboni. You actually get the Zamboni.
Well, I think we covered a lot of topics this time around. We've hit our limit, but I think we had some really good things to talk about here. Really juicy stuff. So we will leave off with this. We have an upcoming episode of CoreCon. Now I know about it. Where we will, if you are interested in AGDQ kind of stuff, you will be very much interested in it. We'll be talking about our biggest video gaming accomplishments, including difficult things that we've done in games, achievements we've gotten, bosses we've beaten, levels we've obtained, that kind of thing. So stay tuned for that one on Thursday. So that is the show for this week. Please remember to subscribe to the Corrective Consciousness YouTube and SoundCloud pages. While there, please give us thumbs ups, likes, and 5-star ratings on iTunes. It helps promote and spread awareness of the show, and any bit of encouragement helps keep the show going. You can also catch us on Thursday on our sister podcast, Corrective Consciousness, the podcast where we explore the inanity of pop culture. Finally, you can friend me as vysethebold on Steam, PSN, Xbox Live, Twitter, Switch, and Battle.net.
And you can follow me on my YouTube channel, Lotus Prince. You can hit me up on Twitter at Lotus Prince. And finally, if you are interested in seeing my videos early, getting in on exclusive live streams, select upcoming games for me to Let's Play, Call of Cthulhu Dark Corners of the Earth is coming up next. Or
it's pronounced Cthulhu.
Sorry. It's pronounced unpronounceable.
Yeah, I was actually going to say actually
I can't say it because no one can. Yeah, but anyway, or getting in on a Discord with me and other patrons, then perhaps consider swinging by my Patreon account, which can be found at patreon.com/LotusPrince.
And you can find me as PyroJackFrost or Cloud08540 on BattleNet, PSN, and Steam.
All right, we'll catch everybody on Thursday.
Until next time, everyone.
Bye, everybody.